going to share my screen now. I'll just need a quick confirmation if my screen is visible.
Yes, it is.
Okay, perfect. So let's begin. My topic for today is New Era for Power Platform with Copilot. I'm Dr. Sushma Uday Kamath. I'm a Microsoft certified trainer. I work for CloudThat Bangalore as a Microsoft certified trainer. And yes, I'm a subject matter expert for Power Apps and Automate division there. So apart from this, I have a PhD in drone technology in 3D environment. And yes, so Power Platform happens to be something which has always interested me. So let us deep dive into the same. So I'm sure everybody here knows what is Power Platform and what is so important about Power Platform. Any answers can I expect in the chat from my audience? And again, yes, because of the bandwidth issue, what I'll do is I'm just going to keep my camera off. Please don't mind about this. And yes, do my participants know anything about Power Platform? A quick heads up. Yes, no, anything? Okay, so let me tell you why Power Platform happens to be so important. So somebody when asks me why Power Platform when there are so many other skill sets and technologies already in the market, I tell them Power Platform speaks in terms of low code, no code. So everything here in Power Platform happens to be in terms of low code, no code. No doubt about it that it can always be extended to the pro developer level, right? So when Microsoft offers us the Power Platform, it really spans well with Microsoft 365. It can be Azure, it can be Dynamics 365, and many standalone applications. So when Microsoft Power Platform comes into picture, we have five major products that it offers. So the first one happens to be the Power BI, second is Power Apps, third is Power Automate, fourth is Power Virtual Agents, the Microsoft Copilot Studio, like we know it now. And the last one happens to be the Power Pages, right? So amongst all of this, we know that the Power BI is for visualizing and analyzing the huge data. When it comes to Power Apps, if I just open my phone now, I am pretty sure that I'll find minimum at least 10 apps which I have downloaded, right? So the same way, in case I would like to make something for my business related requirements, if I want to have my apps related to business requirements, then I can definitely rely on Power Apps, which offers two categories in it. One can be a Canvas app, and second can be the model driven app, right? The third one is the Power Automate. See, Power Automate is used because we are trying to reduce the repetitive tasks. Because we know that every single day we are just busy doing the same tasks again and again. Maybe I would like to send a good morning message to my reportees, or if I want to send good morning message to my students or my participants. So individually, if I would like to send sharp at 8 a.m. every morning, then the process gets really difficult because I will have to handle the same process repeatedly for maybe if there are 25 participants, I may have to do it for 25 times. And that's so mundane, right? So to avoid the repetitive task, we really go for Power Automate these days. Coming to the Power Virtual Agents, we know that maybe there are so many websites these days that have a chatbot, right? There's a chatbot that pops up and says, hey, how may I help you? So I'm sure you may have come across the situation where, so you might need assistance, you don't have anybody by your side, your friend is not around to ask for help. So now there comes this chatbot, which is actually making it easy for you by answering all the queries that you have in your mind, right? So to create the chatbots, it's really simple when it comes to the Power Platform because it has got a separate product for the same. The last one, the Power Pages, where I mentioned there are two apps that we speak about when it comes to Power App, but again, they are internal facing. which means they are for the people who are part of your organization. If you want to have some websites created for people, not just from your organization, but also from outside of your organization, then you can easily go for Power Pages, which lets you create external facing websites, right? So coming to the features of Power Platform, there are three. First is the data connector, second is the AI builder, and third is Dataverse, right? So when it comes to the data connectors, you can understand that the Power Platform has so many products that would require some integration with multiple services and platforms. So how can you connect with them? Unless you have a connector, you can't really go ahead and connect with them, right? So under this Power Platform, it offers a lot of connectors. We have a huge number of connectors, more than 1,000 plus connectors available. We can be easily using them. When it comes to AI builder, we know that AI happens to be the most sensational topic these days, right? AI is the artificial intelligence. And yes, so in Power Platform, we have something called as AI Hub, which helps us create models, right? It helps us create a lot of models. And there are some pre-built models, and there are some models which we can be creating, which are the custom models. So when the last feature, if I'm explaining, if it is Dataverse, then that is the hero of everything that we do here. So what is this Dataverse? So basically, this Dataverse is not just a database. It offers logic. It has a lot of logic related features. It offers integration, and it also has a great security feature applied, right? So Dataverse happens to be a cloud-based, so you can be storing anything in the Dataverse. Everything will be in the form of tables, okay? So whatever you store will be in the form of tables, and you know that if it is in the form of tables, it will definitely have rows and columns. So a table basically stores the set of records, and column individually will be holding the discrete piece of information. So all this is about what is Power Platform. It is low code, no code, like I said, and I explained you about the products and the features that come under Microsoft Power Platform. So now let's go ahead and see what is a Copilot and how is this Copilot into Power Platform to make our lives easier. Okay, let's see more about it. So yes, what is a Copilot? So everybody's speaking about Copilot. And yes, with Copilot, we can be building an app, and it can include the data behind it just by describing what you need. So you are supposed to be extra specific about what you require. The more specific you are, the better the results that you get. And instead of doing a lot of steps by ourselves, what we can do is we can just ask the Copilot to do it. And what we can do is by describing the same in the most natural language, we can just get some things done through some steps of conversation. All we can do is we can be iterating multiple times, and we can be telling the Copilot to make the modifications. Yes, it does it. It creates things from scratch. It does help you create things from basic level. Then you can be enhancing it through a lot of instructions and conversations that you have with your system. Yes, so that's about the Copilot. And now you can just think, so what all can your team do or achieve in few minutes rather than spending a lot of hours in just using, by doing a quick thing what is straightforward. You can have a natural language prompt, and you can be replacing several steps spread across several apps by frequent context switching. So all this while, what were we doing? We were just doing a lot of steps. We were doing everything from scratch. But now you can just imagine, just by having some natural language prompts, we can be making the Copilot do what we were doing all these days. And now there lies the Copilot for you. And we will be now deep diving into multiple parts of Power Platform where this Copilot comes into picture. Let's see more. So I have picked three important topics. One is with the Dataverse, I'll show you how Copilots work. With Canvas app, I'll show you how Copilots work. And with Power Automate, I'll show you how Copilots work. Let's take one after the other. So, like I told you, the Dataverse happens to securely store and manage your data. You can just store the data and you can forget it because you know how secure it can get, right? And with data, the Dataverse happens to store everything in the form of tables. When it comes in the form of tables, it is a table that is a set of rows, which was formerly described as records, and columns, which were formerly they referred to as fields or the attributes. So now once everything you store in the form of table like this, you can just imagine that table definitely will have a lot of columns and a lot of rows coming in, right? So now basic process is going to be such that you create this table, you create one column after the other. You can just imagine the process can be pretty time consuming, right? So to avoid this, what you can do is you can directly go ahead and begin the process with the Copilot feature. So for that, once you start with the Copilot, what you need to do is you're supposed to go into the Power App, and at the left hand side in the make.powerapps.com, you have your tables mentioned, and that tables represent your data words, right? So here is your tables, which represents the data words. Click on the same. Once you click on the data words, you know that everything that opens is the standard tables. These are some of the standard tables. If you want to create something from scratch, you can always create a new table, which is called a custom table, right? There are again multiple ways in which you can be creating tables, but I'm going to now show you the simplest way of all, which is the Copilot way. So the window I'm now in is the make.powerapps.com, which is my Power App homepage. I'll click on the tables. Once I click on the tables, so there are multiple options in which I can be creating a Dataverse table. I'm going to keep it simple and I'll show you how easy it is with the Copilots. I'm going to describe the new table now, right? If I click on describe the new table, you can see Copilot is already here. So instead of me doing the table creation and the column creation from scratch, I'm going to just write it here about what I require. Maybe I'll ask my Copilot to create maybe the inventory management, create an inventory management table. I'm going to keep it simple. I'll just ask it to perform this for me now. Let's see within how many seconds is it going to do. See, you can already see that the table is populated, right? Who did this for me? The Copilot again. So the name of the table is inventory management, and there are about 5 columns created, or maybe 6 columns created. The product ID, the product name, there is a quantity, price, category, date added. So now if I want to add something else, I told you now, so while you start, you're going to do it from scratch, then you can go on enhancing the things. Maybe here, I'll ask the Copilot to add few more rows. I'll say add 5 more rows. I'll say add 5 more rows. Right now, there are about 5 rows here. I'll say add 5 more rows to my Copilot. Let's see if the Copilot understands my instructions. Yes. So what it did just now is, see, now there are totally 10 rows and it is done. I can be changing the name of anything. Instead of product ID, I can change it to maybe replace the product ID with product code. Let's see if it understands. Okay, so now we're going to replace the product ID column with product code. So you can already see that the product ID is now replaced with the word product code, right? So the feature is really interesting. It actually is the AI generated content. So you can be always verifying the things that are being populated here, and then you can move ahead. Once you feel everything that is generated using the Copilot feature is right, your table is ready, you can be clicking on create. Once you click on create, within no time, the table that you generated using the Copilot feature is now in front of your eyes, right? So thus the simplest way of creating your table using the or the data was table using the Copilot feature was this that I explained to you just now. So I hope it was clear. Yes. So what we did is right here, we just clicked on describe the new table. We went to the Copilot window. I just went on writing what I require and I got my results, right? So that's about the first option, which is Dataverse. So coming to the next one, that is the Canvas app that I would like to talk about. So Canvas app is something which is easier and it is user friendly because Canvas app also happens to be a part of Power App, which works on the low code, no code approach. Here we design and build a business app from the canvas. Maybe the canvas, as we already know, we were maybe in our childhood, we would write, we would draw things on the canvas, right? Here as well in the Canvas app, we can be creating things from blank. And that's why is the name Canvas, and we can be creating this, we can be creating beautiful canvas apps without writing code. All we do is we are using some power fx formula like we use in Excel. That's it, to glue between some of the components that we use in our canvas app. And just like our design, maybe so maybe the way we require the way we want to create this canvas app, maybe I want image on the left hand side, I want a header on the top, I want a footer at the bottom, I just want some background color, I want a specific background image. Every customization that you think is possible with the help of Canvas app, right? So once we decide to do a Canvas app, it is very, very simple using the Copilot feature, because while you create the Canvas app, there are multiple screens involved, because every screen can be different. You can have a home screen, you can be having a screen number one, screen two, screen three, a thank you screen, a submit screen. There can be so many options. So now you just imagine if the process is now converted into the Copilot related one, then the life becomes simpler because we can be asking the Copilot to create the app for us. So I'm going to show you a simple one. I'm going to tell you how it all works. I'm just going to give you a small demonstration on how it looks. And you can already see here, the table we created is now populated in the Dataverse. This is our Dataverse, and the table we created using the Copilot is here populated. I hope it was a simple process and you liked how Copilot worked. Now I'll go to the home page, right? Once I'm in my home page, you can clearly see here, this is the option where I can be creating the apps using Copilot feature. So I can be typing whatever I want and I can expect the Copilot to understand the same and perform the task for me. So what I'm going to now do is I'll mention create an app for visitor management. Create an app for visitor management. Let me check how it works. So the first part here is while you are creating an app, it again depends on the table. So for which what it does now is the first step is it creates a Dataverse table. You can see that the visitor management table is now ready. If you want to make any changes, you can definitely do. So the table has a visitor ID, it has name, it has email, it has phone number, it has check-in time, check-out time. All of these data are related to the visitor management. If I feel convinced with what is being populated by the Copilot, I can just click on create app. You can see here there is option for creating app. If I still want to add anything, if I maybe want to add some 10 more rows because I want the data in abundance. So I'll mention add 10 more rows and I'll see once the rows are added, then maybe I can decide on whether to create the app or not, right? Let me wait for the Copilot to add. Yes, it has already added 10 more rows. So totally there are a lot of rows now. And now let me click on create app. So what is it going to do? So now it is trying to create an app for me. So this app is basically generated using the Copilot feature. What did it first do? It actually tried to create a table. And yes, it does let me modify and enhance the table that is being created automatically. I can be adding whatever I require. I can be creating what I require. I can make changes in the rows that are populated. I can be working on the columns that are populated. And then automatically it lets me here in the Power App Studio, and you can see that depending on the data that is populated, now I have my Canvas app ready. So what you're going to see here on my screen is the Canvas app, which is created using the Copilot feature. So for this now, maybe if I want to add a background color, I can do it. If I want to add something else, see here, you can see there is background color option, there is theme option. So if I want to change it to red, I can see it's already being populated. There are so many modifications and there are so many changes that I can easily do. Maybe see, I'll keep the lavender combination now. Yes, so the theme is generated. I can as well change the background color. Maybe if I want to keep some lighter background shade, I can definitely do it. All the changes once I do, I can still modify it by adding few more screens here. So the Canvas app creation is no longer a tedious process, but within no time, I have created my Canvas app using the Copilot feature. I hope you liked it, right? So it is as simple as that. So that's about the Canvas app that I wanted to show you. So that is the Canvas app. I showed you this, how we actually created. We just had a Copilot on the homepage of Power App itself. We just added some guidance. I just asked it to perform certain thing for me and it has done. So that was my AI assistance for you. And yes, the first step was to create a table. So once the table was created, we just modified it according to our requirement, and then we clicked on Create App, right? So the process is really simple. So all we had to review in our table is with some suggestions, we can view some columns, we can edit the table name, and then the Copilot will be helping us create the app. So coming to the next part of our discussion, this is an interesting one. There is a Copilot in Power Automate. So Copilot in Power Automate is like having your own virtual agent. I feel really happy when I'm telling you this because it's a very powerful feature which makes the workflow automation very, very simpler. And it also uses the AI and machine learning to analyze the processes, and it does generate some smart suggestions for actions and automations, right? And again, the biggest part of this is, and also the best part is, we don't need to be the coding expert. So there can be so many people amongst us who fall under the citizen developer category. Who is a citizen developer? There can be people who are not from the coding background. There can be people who are not from the computer science engineering background and do not know coding or programming. But these could be the people who still have an interest to develop flows, or maybe still have an interest to develop apps and dashboards. So basically, citizen developer can still be creating everything that he wants using Power Platform, right? So now this Copilot feature in Power Automate is designed to create efficient workflows without the hassle of writing complex programming. So I'm going to show you one simple scenario how it works. I'm going to again take you here. I'm back in my Power Automate. You can see that once I'm in my Power Automate window, so this is my home page. And again, here I can be typing whatever I require. Okay, so whatever I want, I can be entering here. Maybe I'll say that anyway, we have a data words table for inventory management. So I'll say that modify data words table and have approval created. Okay, so there are some suggestions coming in. When a row is modified in a data words table, get the row and start an approval process. Okay, so there is a suggestion coming in. Let me just use the same. And then once I type in whatever I require, you can see that the Copilot has already created or suggested a flow for me. All I have to do is I'll have to see whether the flow created by my Copilot or my assistants is correct. If I feel it is right, all I have to do is go for next. If not, I can be saying this isn't what I'm looking for. Let me go to the next option. So once I'm in my next option now, there are some approvals happening. So that's why the approval connection has to be established. If I'm using the Dataverse connection also is supposed to be established. And now what I'll do is let me click on create flow. So now my flow is getting created. Yes. So once my flow is getting created, you can see that there is the Copilot feature still here. I can still be adding certain steps here. I can be deleting certain steps here, right? There can be changes made even here. This is the new designer. I can also show you how the older designer in Power Automate looked like. So for that, what I can do is maybe I can move it to the older designer. I'm going to show you how the flow designer looks like. Yes. So once I'm here in this step, you can easily see that how the flow is created using, I have not created any of these steps. All I did is I just instructed the Copilot to create some flows for me and it has done it. So what I'm going to now do is I'll just modify it a little and then I'm going to have my flow running. So the step is the trigger, in fact, is when a row is added, modified, or deleted. So let me just change this to when a row is added. I can keep any one. Maybe you let me add a particular row and then I can see the changes happening. So what I'm expecting, what is the change type that I want? The change type that I want is added. I'm going to add the row, right? And then which is the table that I want? I have anyway created the inventory management table for my Dataverse using the Copilot feature. Let me use the same table, which is inventory management, and the scope is kept at the organization level. So whatever changes I'm making here is all at the organization level, right? Let me just keep it a little simple. I'm not going to get a row by ID. I'm just going to show you how this approval can actually happen. So I'm just going to open this and the action, let me show you. The approval type can be of multiple categories. The first one is approve or reject, which is everyone has to approve. The second is approve, reject. The first has to respond. Third is the custom responses, where we will have to wait for all the responses. And the last one happens to be the custom response, wait for one response. Or you can also be adding some custom value as well. Let me just consider first to respond option and let me wait for things to be populated here. Yes. So what is the title I'm giving for this? The title can be approve or reject maybe. Okay. And then who is this assigned to? So with this credential, my name here is assigned as the system admin probably. Yes, I'm just going to use my same email ID and now I'm going to save my flow, right? So this flow basically was created using Copilot. All I did is I just added some inputs wherever required. So it says my flow is ready. There are two things required in this flow basically. One is the data words table that I'm using. And second is there has to be my Outlook, because the credential of maybe the email that I have provided is of Outlook. That's why let me open the app launcher and I'll keep my Outlook open just for the emails to be received. And then I can just go here. I can go back to my data words table, right? I can go to my data words table. I can open that as well. And I can show you how the flow can be very easily executed. I can go to my table. So what's the name of my table? It was inventory management. It was inventory management. Let me open this table and keep it ready because I would like to edit it. I'm going to add a new row to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep this table ready, right? And yes, also is my Outlook ready. And then what I'll do, I'm just going to say test to this flow and I'm going to test this. So what I'm going to now do is, yes. Okay, to see how the flow works, start performing the starting action. So what is my starting action? It has to be by adding a new row. I'm going to just add a new row. I have added it. I'm going to add some details here. Maybe I'm going to enter 011 as the product code. I'm just going to select some category. Again, for the category, there is drop down. Let me choose electronics. And for the date added, there is a date picker here. Yeah, so with the date picker, let me just choose if there is a date being populated. Okay, and then maybe if I want to enter the product name, let me mention it as product 11 or something. Yeah, so I just added some details here, and then let me just unselect this. You know that the data in Dataverse gets automatically saved. You can see this data saved coming in. So once it comes in, let me go back to my run history, and you can see that the flow first step is executed, because what I did is I just went into it and went into my Dataverse, the inventory management table, and there I just added a single row there. Now I will have to see whether my next step is getting executed or no. The next step will only get executed once I approve or reject. Let me go to my email. There is an email coming in. It asks me to approve or reject about this flow being okay. So now the row being added. Let me just show you by just approving it. There is submit option. I'm going to submit the same. So once I submit, yeah, the action is completed successfully. Let me come back. You can see that the flow ran successfully. So who did all of this possible? The Copilot made it so simpler, because I didn't have to create anything from scratch. All I did is I had to go to my home page and type what I want. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less, right? So that's about the simple way of creating the Power Automate flow using the Copilot feature, right? And yes, so the steps you already know, because I just demonstrated the same. We created a flow using the Cloud Flows Designer with Copilot by just entering whatever I require. The minute I start entering, you know that everything that I enter comes in. And as suggestions, there are a lot of suggestions. I can be picking up the suggestions as well, and I can start working on the same, right? The process is really simple. The minute I go into my suggestion, it already creates the flow on its own, and it says welcome to the Copilot in Power Automate. I can still make the changes in the flow steps that I have, and I can have the flow executed, right? So this was something that I just wanted to show you and tell you how simple does the Copilot make the Power Platform. And yes, we are already very impressed using Power Platform, and you can imagine how beautiful it can get using Copilots as well, because it saves a lot of time and it makes us engage in more productive activities than being involved in creating everything from scratch. So I hope you liked how Copilot works in the Power Platform. So that's how we can say that this is the new era of Power Platform with Copilots. So this was a small introduction about Copilots. I wanted to just keep it very simple, because I kind of felt the audience is going to be mixed, and they can be from all the domains. They can be beginners, they can be intermediate, they can as well be experts. But I just covered everything from scratch. I hope you like this session. And again, I'm open for the questions. In case there are any, you can feel free to drop your queries in the chat. So how is the session going? All good? You guys like the session? I'm still here. You can be asking the questions in case there are any. You can let me know how the session was. Otherwise, we can be passing it on to the next speaker. I had great time speaking